Hello and welcome to Twin Talk. This is Angie and I'm here with my sister Joy. And we are so excited because this is our 50th episode. Woo, 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 woo. So, yeah. Anyway, super excited. We're actually going to do a promotional video, so be looking for that. And let's just get right down to it. Like we told you in our previous podcast, we are going to discuss the book Dracula. So, Joy, first of all, I just want to say thank you for reading Dracula, because I know this is not a book that you own or would ever own, and I just appreciate you reading a book that you typically would not read.
Yeah, and this one I did listen to the audio. I don't remember how many hours it was, but yeah, I did listen to it.
Okay, so you listened to it through audio. Okay.
Yes.
Do you want to tell everyone just a little bit about your experience with the audiobook?
Okay, the actors were really good. The voice actors were great. It just seemed like it lasted forever. It seemed super long, very long.
Okay, and you would. Is it a safe assumption to say you did lose interest from time to time?
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to get into this now or later.
Well, a little of both.
Get to it later.
We can discuss that later.
All right.
Okay, so let's just. I guess I need to mention that the book was written by Bram Stoker. And Joy, I talked about this one time. Is it Bram? Is it Bram? And whenever I looked it up, the pronunciation, most people do say Bram.
Okay.
And I guess because it is it's kind of a shortened version of Abraham.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and matter of fact, the first thing that came to my mind was Brom Bones off of Sleepy Hollow, and I think it's because his first name is Abraham. But I always thought they called him Brom, but who knows? Anyway, this was written by Bram Stoker, also known as Abraham Bram Stoker. He was born in Dublin in 1847, and he's the third of 7 children. And the thing I found really interesting about him, and you may have read this, when he was a young child, he had a mysterious illness. And they said he was bedridden until he was the age of 7.
Wow. And
I read somewhere that his mom, I don't know if this is a fact or if it's just an assumption, that she read to him a lot. And they said it's probably very likely that while he was bedridden, while he was a very young child, that he probably laid there and read books and just let his imagination run wild. You know, so that might have been years that were kind of accumulating, this his imagination. So he went to Trinity College. He was a civil servant. He wrote theater reviews, and he became the manager for a very famous actor. And he actually worked for this actor for a long time. And what's funny to me is that he's actually more famous than the actor, because have you ever heard of Henry Irving?
No.
No, and I doubt many people have. But anyway, by the time of his death in 1912, he had penned 12 novels, several works of nonfiction, and dozens of short stories. And then he wrote the Gothic horror novel Dracula in 1897 at the age of 50. So,
okay, about our age.
About our age when he wrote this book. Okay, so real quickly, I feel like most people kind of have a general idea of what Dracula's about. What's funny though is you assume that, but I didn't know what Dracula. I mean, I knew a general idea of the character, But anyway, Dracula, I found this on the internet and I thought I would read it because it's really cute. It says, Dracula needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. Bram Stoker's vampire, a Transylvania count who turns into a bat, sleeps in coffins, and drinks the blood of the living, is the quintessential horror villain. And in true undead style, he holds up well. He's as creepy today as he was when Stoker invented him in 1897. So, my question for you is, have you ever really given much thought to Dracula? I mean, why has this particular character survived in our culture after all these years? I mean, why do you think people hold him so fascinating, and why is he so pervasive in our culture?
So, no, I had never really given him much thought. Obviously, growing up, it seems like he was always one of the top Halloween costumes. When people dress up, if they're like a ghost, Dracula, I always, so Halloween, I would think of him. And then I remember when that movie, Interview with a Vampire, came out, and I remember watching that. And
I went to see that, I think.
Oh, you did?
At the movies, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just remember, of course, I like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, but I just remember I couldn't hardly get into the movie. But now that I've listened to the book, I kind of want to go back and rewatch the movie. But no, I had never given it much thought. But now that I've had time to think about it, why is he so popular? Why has he lasted through the ages? I just think people are fascinated with anything that's supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
And, that Dracula's supernatural. He's like undead. He doesn't die. He lives forever. And it's just, I don't know. Did you happen to have any chance to research did Bram Stoker just get these ideas from like folklore, urban legends? I mean, where is he getting his material to write all this stuff? He had to have heard maybe this urban legend or whatever from somewhere, I would think.
Well, one interesting thing I did find in doing research for this is they said that the vampire lore had been popular for the last 100 years before he wrote Dracula.
Oh, before he
So this was nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
No, vampires, they said, were very, very popular in the Victorian society.
Mm-hmm.
And they said for the last 100 years there had been several novels written about vampires.
Okay, but where did that come from? I mean, I did watch a documentary.
Where the belief in vampires originate. Yeah, that's a good question.
I watched a documentary several years ago, and I wish I could have watched it before we did this podcast, but it was talking about the origins of Dracula, and it is based on there really was a count who I believe lived in Romania. Not maybe is Transylvania a city in Romania? I don't even know, but it is based on actual people, and this does come out of that part of the world.
Yes, Transylvania is located in Romania. And yes, there was a ruler called Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
They suspect it's possible he did draw some of the character traits and things because he was known for being merciless on the battlefield, and they said that there was possibly some cannibalism, maybe, and some drinking of the blood. And so, and they said there's nothing to prove that, but that's possible.
So we know a little bit about the origins, but I guess he's the first one that actually penned a full novel about it. I'm guessing. I don't know.
For some reason, and I was going to mention this toward the end, but this is as good place as any. The book itself never really was that popular originally. Mm-hmm. I mean, they said it was well received originally, but it did not become or just take off and explode as far as popularity until they started making films and movies.
Right.
And they said once they made the first original film about it, from that point on, that's where it just took off.
Was he even alive when this first film? So he never saw the success.
He never saw the success of it. Like I said, they said the book was well received, but as far as the popularity, the movies and the TV is what gave it exposure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like you. I've just always taken Dracula and vampires for granted because I've seen images of both my whole life. I mean, if you think about it, they're in our movies, our cartoons, our TV shows. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is what came to my mind.
You know what just came to my mind? Count Chocula. Remember the cereal?
Oh, yes. It's funny you said that because I was thinking even our cereal.
Yeah, Count Chocula.
Yes.
And then on Sesame Street, we have the guy that counts the numbers. What's his name?
Oh, no. This is a twin moment because that's one of the trivia questions.
Oh, no.
So be thinking about that because I want to ask you that Muppet's name.
Okay, great. I got to think about that.
That's so funny that you mentioned that because that is part of our trivia.
Okay.
So, and then I also thought of like some of our modern day novels like Twilight, and you and I were suckered into that series. So,
the excuse I hid behind was, I'm all my students are reading it, and I want to know what they're reading. And then I started reading it, and my goodness, if I didn't read every stinking book. And that's kind of like my dirty little secret. Like, I enjoyed them. Everybody trashes them and talks about how silly and stupid.
I don't know what you're talking about. Team Jacob. Team Jacob, Team Edward. So Faith, our friend Faith, we can throw her under the bus here. She's the one that was reading them, and she got us to reading them. And then, did we go see the movie with Faith? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Anyway, I saw a lady that I work with there, and I was I did the whole spiel of, I'm here with my daughter.
Right.
She wanted to see this movie. So, but yeah, I was definitely Team Jacob. Okay. Anyway, what's odd to me though is that even though we've grown up with the images of vampires and Dracula, it never once occurred to me to think, what was the actual source? What was the actual original story? You feel like you know because you hear so many.
Right. You see the movies.
You've seen so many movies and so many, and you know they're throwing things in there, but it never occurred to me. And then once we started doing this podcast, I thought, well, just go read give it a chance. I mean, it's a classic. I mean, go read it and just see for yourself what it's about. So here we are. Okay, so something odd did kind of happen to me, though, while I was reading the book. And I mentioned this to you the other day on the phone just to kind of prepare you that we were going to talk about this. But I just had this really odd experience. Because we've grown up in a culture where you are so saturated and exposed to all these images of vampires and Dracula, I felt like when I was reading the book that I couldn't view it with fresh eyes. Did you? Does that make sense?
Yes, it's kind of like I already know the story. And yeah, it's almost like you're reading something so familiar. Like you're already so familiar with it, it wasn't fresh and new.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And the other word that kept coming to mind was I'm desensitized. Okay. The book's supposed to be scary.
Right.
Okay, it's written in a way that you're supposed to be absolutely horrified. You know, these vampires are killing people, drinking their blood, and then you can't die once you become a vampire. And if you think about that, that's absolutely horrific.
Yeah, you're damned to it. You're eternal damnation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But I never did get scared. And I truly believe that's just part of the culture, because that's just the culture we live in. We are desensitized.
We're desensitized to violence, gore, all those things. You're right. It's hard to shock anyone or scare anyone because we've seen and heard so much.
Yes, but now I did think about, the people at the time, they didn't have TV and radio, so they didn't have all the things we have. So I think to them, this probably was absolutely terrifying to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into what was your overall impression of the book?
Okay, overall impression of the book, I liked it. I think it had some really good writing. Once again, the characters were interesting. I wanted to see what happened to them. I wanted to see where the story went. And we've talked about this before we did the podcast, so we both agree. But in my opinion, you could take the first few chapters and the last few chapters, cut out the whole middle, and just have a really short novel, or just a really long short, like a novella, or like a short story, and it'd be incredible. But man, that middle part, pardon the pun, sucked.
Good one.
Yeah, good one.
Good one, Joy.
Okay, so what are your thoughts?
Okay, to be honest with you, a long time ago, I worked at this doctor's office, and I worked with a really young girl. She was an intern, and she was still in high school, and she loved theater. She invited me to come see the play Dracula at Northside High School, and she was going to be in it. So I dragged Corby with me. We go in, the very first scene, they're playing this really cool music. They've got a really cool stage setting. From the back of the auditorium, they carry a fake coffin down the middle of the aisle.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm completely captivated from the minute one. Well, once they get past that scene, the rest of it was like Snoresville.
Snooze fest.
Yeah. I was like, I wanted to leave. I was so bored. Okay, that's exactly how I felt about the book.
Yes.
I was like, I had the same experience with the book that I had at that
it grips you at the beginning. It's got this great, exciting storyline. He's going to see this count, and
the writing was out of this world.
But then you get into
the
journal entries.
It's almost like
diaries.
It's almost like instead of having a climax that the book builds up toward the climax, which it does, because toward the end they have to go chase him down.
It's like it crescendos at the beginning, and then it falls flat for 3 million pages.
Yes.
And then at the end it gets good again. That's why I'm saying cut out the middle.
Yes.
And kind of work on on where your climax and everything is.
Bram, if you're listening from the grave, I'm sorry. He's rolling in his grave right now. But honestly, so that's how, in my mind, this is how I would describe it. There was peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Okay, in the very beginning of the book, there's this huge peak, and then there was valley. But so one minute I was literally mesmerized by his writing, like you said, the very beginning of the book, and it's his trip to...
Yeah, from the beginning of the book, where it describes, the characters and his journey to
Transylvania,
to Dracula's castle
was amazing.
And then him meeting Dracula and kind of his first few weeks experience there.
Yes,
all interesting, all like, oh, this is awesome. But man, once they pull away from him and go to some other characters.
Yeah.
It was hard.
When you start reading the journal entries, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, I was like looking for a book shredder. I was ready to throw the thing away. But, I was anticipating that there might be some more brilliant writing.
They just keep enough little breadcrumbs to keep you listening.
Yes.
Until you, and it is worth, like I said, you got to, if you're going to read it, make sure you read the end, because it gets a little bit more exciting.
So there were passages that were filled with, he's really good at suspense and beauty. He had some beautiful writing, but the passages where the characters were dealing with the detective work, like who is Dracula? How can we find him? The details of how they're going to find and kill Dracula.
Yes,
I want to
pull my hair out.
Yeah,
it's like, we get it. Go on, and and that's another thing in defense of Bram Stoker. When he was alive, things were much more slow paced and drawn out, and now we're in the McDonald's drive-through. I want my stuff in 5 minutes and go.
You make a good point.
We're in a get to the point, go.
Yes.
Thrill me now. Give me the
our expectations for entertainment are so much more and higher. Like, we want to be, every single page has to be
something
knock our socks off. So
and I understand character development and plot development, and those things take time, but man, he just took way too much time.
Something I jotted down just for this moment was, I said, although some of these boring passages were necessary to connect the story, he could have deleted about 20 journal entries.
Oh my goodness.
So what we need to tell our listeners now, just so they'll understand this, is the format the book is written in is all written through letters, journal entries, newspaper clippings. So you're literally reading people's journal entries, and that's how the story develops, is through the characters' writings.
I forgot. Is the whole thing journal entries, or is there a few? Are there a few passages?
There's a few newspaper clippings. It's all
okay.
And there's a word for it, and I just didn't write it down. It's just a way that back then, especially writers used this technique.
Okay.
There was never like a first or third person. It was always through their letters.
Right.
Is how the story progresses.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so what we're going to do is a little different. I'm actually going to read just the highlights of this, and I'm just going to kind of get your thoughts a little bit on a couple of these passages. Right. Okay, so Jonathan Harker, he's a young lawyer. He travels to Transylvania, which is modern-day Romania, to help a rich nobleman named Count Dracula purchase an estate in England. Dracula is planning to immigrate to England, and he wants Harker to help him hammer out all the legal details. So Harker is at first impressed by Dracula's suave politeness, but is soon creeped out by the Count's uncanny ability to communicate with wolves, and by the lack of servants or anyone else in the Count's huge castle. And soon after, Harker realizes he's a prisoner in the castle. So, what you got any comments on that?
To me, this was one of the more interesting parts of the book. He's kind of excited and intrigued by this strange man. He's exploring this big castle. I like how they describe the castle. And it really is kind of very unsettling when he realizes he's a prisoner. And he did a good job. I feel like Stoker did a really good job of setting up that part of the book, because you feel for him. You're like, oh my goodness, you got to get out of there.
And he realizes that there's no one else there but him and Dracula. That's the part that creeped me out. Because you think you're going to be in a house full of servants, and then you realize, oh, it's just me and this weird dude.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty intriguing, and I like that part of the book.
Yeah, and so Harker realizes pretty quickly that Dracula is only keeping him alive so that he can finish his real estate transaction. And he does decide to make a break for it, and in the book, you'll remember he barely escapes the castle alive. Now, this is just my question to you, because I honestly don't remember this. How did he get out alive?
Okay, so here's my confession.
Okay.
Because the book dragged on so much, I literally would walk in and out of the room as I had it playing on my phone, and I missed this part, how he escaped.
Okay.
And that's crucial. I'm like, how did he get out of there?
It's almost like he wakes up in a, what's it called, a convent where nuns are?
Yeah. Oh, I do remember him going into Dracula's chamber and looking for the key to the front door.
Yes.
So he must have been able to get that key somehow.
Somehow he escapes, but you don't.
And he wakes up in a
convent.
I
honestly don't know if the author purposely left that vague and doesn't say it, or if I just missed it.
I know I probably missed it, because I was pretty guilty about, I'm going to leave the room. I'm sure I won't miss anything but another journal entry that doesn't tell me anything.
Okay, but the most important thing is we do know Jonathan Harker escapes. He escapes.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, back in England, he's got a fiance. Her name is Mina. who's hanging out with her best friend Lucy in a seaside town in England. And Lucy can only think about her suitors because she's got 3 of them.
Right. 3 marriage proposals.
She gets 3 marriage proposals
in
the same day by 3 friends. Dr. John Seward, who's a doctor who runs a mental hospital. Quincy Morris, who's an American. And Arthur Homewood, who is the son of a lord. Okay, I'm just curious, did you think there was any significance? Why did the author have her have 3 marriage proposals in one day?
I think he's just trying to show us how beautiful and enchanting and desirable she is.
Okay, and another thing too is
then we feel more for her when we see what happens to her.
Okay,
I feel like.
I agree. I think he was showing that how beautiful and desirable she was to men and how loved she was. But I also felt like it helped him develop his story and that he needed all these characters to eventually go hunt down Dracula.
That's true. How convenient
to have this group of men
that are connected to her, that love her. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, how convenient to have them. Yeah. Because we already know their stories. We all know that they proposed and were in love with her, but then they come together to...
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting that he literally had 3 men who loved the same woman. Right. But anyway. Okay, so meanwhile...
It did seem like a little bit of overkill, 3 marriage proposals.
Yeah, and
that did seem very unbelievable.
And that's why I kind of thought maybe he did it for practical reasons to automatically have...
It just seemed like it'd be much more realistic if he would have said, over the last month, she had 3 marriage proposals.
Or he was a former suitor.
Yeah, instead of all in one day. That just seemed very unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you that question, because I thought I just thought that was a little odd.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so meanwhile, Dracula has arrived in England, but he hasn't shown himself yet. A patient in Dr. Seward's hospital, Renfield, continually captures and eats insects, spiders, and birds, and says, "The master is coming soon." And Lucy starts acting weird. She seems to be losing blood, but no one knows where the blood's going. And her fiancé, Lord Homewood, gets worried, and Dr. Seward sends for his friend and mentor Van Helsing to check her out.
Okay, I'm not sure, but every time they would say Van Helsing, isn't that the name of some show or movie? I'm almost sure there's a show called Van Helsing. It does
seem like there's something Van
Helsing. And I wonder if it's based on this guy, because he is basically a vampire.
Van Helsing, yes, and he's like from like Belgium or somewhere. I can't remember another country.
I'll have to look that up, but that sounds so familiar when I saw that name.
Okay, so I gotta know, what did you think about the character of Renfield, who ate insects, spiders, and birds?
He's creepy and weird, and I guess he had a special connection with Dracula. I'm still confused. Why did Dracula come and visit him? He wanted him to be his servant or something?
He was... From what I understand, he was in the process of becoming a vampire, and I may have that part wrong, but he called him master.
Okay.
So that makes me think he was already under his control, and the only way you're under his control is to have been already
I thought he had to be bitten.
Yeah.
But had he been bitten?
I think he had, and I think once he was bitten, he started acting crazy, and that's why they locked him up, and he was telling all these fantastical tales. Yes. Right. And okay, just to be completely transparent here, all the passages with him, I couldn't wait for them to get over. It grossed me out. I was like, I don't want to sit and listen to a guy who's eating spiders.
I know, and just when he and the mental counselor, doctor guy, Seward would talk. Those are some of the conversations that they're
snooze fest.
Yes, it's like, and I want to get past those characters. But I guess why was Renfield necessary for the story?
I think it was what's the word when you're trying to shock? I think it was for shock value.
Yeah, because he's eating the spiders.
Yes, I mean, I think he was really trying to just shock people, and just for that. Just, I don't know.
Shock factor.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. Van Helsing. I love that. Van Helsing. He realizes there's a vampire involved because he's a scientist and doctor, but he's also well versed in ancient superstitions and philosophy, so he knows how to kill vampires. So even after giving multiple blood transfusions, they're not able to save Lucy, and she dies. But Van Helsing knows she's really not dead. The 4 men break into her tomb and catch vampire Lucy coming back from a foray in the neighboring village. They stab her in the heart. And okay, bunch of spoilers here. I won't. Okay, I've already said they stab her in the heart, so I can't go back. I
think most people know the general story.
I think you guys know there's going to be some stabbing and heads cutting off here. Anyway, they stab her in the heart, cut off her head to make sure she's really dead and not just mostly dead.
In the life of Dracula.
Yeah, it's funny because they're like, we want to make sure she's not just mostly dead. We want to make sure she's really dead.
Right.
So, okay. the part about the blood transfusions, was that a part you were out of the room?
No, I heard. Yeah, I was like, well, these guys are going to die from weakness or anemia or something, and they can't be giving their blood but yeah, they were giving their blood almost every single day.
Okay, and this is, I didn't really ever mention when this story was set, but it was around the time that, like, typewriters had just been invented and phonographs, so they kept talking about how those were new inventions. So I kept thinking, how did they do a blood transfusion in this day? Now, I guarantee you it wasn't like we do it today.
No.
And they said that, 3 different men, maybe 4, actually did blood transfusions trying to save Lucy. And that part really made my toes curl because I was like, I couldn't stand it.
Because I'm sure it was not very sanitary and probably not how we do it today. Not some little tiny little needle.
Yes, and the men afterwards, they would be so weak, they would have to go lay down. But he kept, in the book, you could tell it was showing how heroic they were, that they were willing to give their life's blood for her.
I will say this, and I don't even know if it's one of your questions or talking points, but one thing that really stood out to me was how he put all the men on a pedestal and made them look, they were very valiant and selfless. And then the women, he made all them look, they were just like angels, virtuous. Like, most of the main characters, he really had them put up on a pedestal. Yes. Women were just virtuous and sweet and kind and loving and frail, and you had to protect them at all cost. And then the men are these heroes, and like I said, they're brave. And I don't know, did you catch that?
Yeah,
there was, all the characters were like,
but everything I read, it said that was just the sign of the times he lived in. That was just how that's how women were viewed.
Right, okay. It just seemed like his characters were too perfect. The women were too perfect. The men were too perfect. Now, obviously, Dracula, he was written as an evil being.
Well, okay, in one way to look at that,
insane guy. But it just, I'm kind of like, give these people some flaws, is my point.
Yeah, but one thing I kept reading over and over was that this is truly a book about good versus evil. Right. So I think he was trying to show these really good, virtuous, noble people fighting a really horrible, demonic devil. That's so I really believe that's why he built them up so much. And it goes back to the
time period it was written in. But yeah, if someone were to rewrite Dracula today, it's just not going to fly. The characters are just too perfect.
Yeah, but I really do believe he was trying to show this is the good side, this is the bad, and so he had to really build up.
Yeah.
So there were some moral conflicts in the book that were really intriguing to me. So let's just talk about Lucy for a second. You know, we know she was beautiful. We know that she was beloved by all these men in her life. So she, like we just said, she was a lovely, virtuous woman. And then now they actually see her, this is kind of gross, but the book says she was getting ready to feast on a child. And so now they know, okay, not only do we have to kill her to protect innocent people, but we also want to put her soul we want her to be at peace and at rest. So they know they have to go to her body in her grave. They know she's not really dead, and they have to actually put a stake through her heart and all that. And there's just this big moral dilemma, and they're all having really a difficult time because when they look at her in her casket, she's beautiful.
Right.
She appears to be getting more beautiful and younger. So there's this moral dilemma of, wow, she looks like our beautiful Lucy.
Yeah, she looks like an angel, but she's really a devil.
And we're getting ready to commit a sacrilege and desecrate her body, but yet they know this is for the greater good for her and for everyone else. All right, so Harker,
and it went back to, if we truly love her,
exactly,
we're doing this out of love. We have to put her at eternal rest.
Right. So Harker, Van Helsing, Dr. Seward, Morris, and Homewood, they all swear to get rid of Dracula once and for all. Unfortunately, Renfield knows about Dracula, and he invites him into the building, and he starts drinking Mina's blood. So Mina, the men come back in time to find her being force-fed some of Dracula's blood. Okay, so the case is now extremely urgent. If they don't catch and kill Dracula quickly, Mina will turn into a vampire like Lucy did. Dracula leads them on a spectacular chase back to Transylvania, where they finally catch up to him and kill him. Mina is saved, and they all live happily ever after, except one of the guys gets stabbed during the final fight. Of course, it would be the American Quincy. So, okay, so what were your favorite passages?
So I really love the description when Jonathan Harker when he is summoned to go to Dracula's castle, I love the imagery and the writing where he describes his journey from like the train all the way up to the castle. And I'm going to read a couple small paragraphs describing that.
Okay.
I really loved how he really described the woods and the moon and the wolves and the snow and the weather, and he really did a good job of setting up this gloomy, supernatural type environment, and he builds up the suspense as you get closer and closer to the castle. The suspense is really built up because all this crazy stuff's already happening.
And my favorite part was as he got closer and closer to Transylvania, the culture started to change, and the people were doing all these. They were making the sign of the cross, and they were warding off the evil eye, and they were giving him relics to protect him, and he didn't know why.
Right, everybody was hush hush, but they were all like, he could tell they were all very worried and too scared to talk, but very worried for him.
What really built up the suspense is everyone else knew where he was going, but he did.
The behavior of all the people as he got closer to
and even
the
animals' behavior started to change as they got
that's true.
Closer.
The weather changed, the animals changed, and the people's reactions changed. Yeah.
So dude, something's up. You need to turn around.
Right.
But he doesn't. Okay, so I totally agree that the journey to Transylvania was by far the best part of the book. But there was also a passage that I'm going to read, and it was about Lucy, and she's sleepwalking in the graveyard. I just thought that was a really cool passage.
Yeah, that was pretty.
I like the passage. Dracula, when he actually arrives in England, a storm comes with him because he does control the weather around
I do like
him.
that whole story about the boat blowing in.
And that was creepy.
Yeah, that was creepy, and how the guy was chained to it. And
there was a captain that was he was bound or tied up to the mast or to the
steering wheel.
The steering wheel.
That's called.
And there was no one on the ship alive, and he was tied up to the ship, but he was dead.
I thought that was a pretty good story.
Yeah, that whole the whole passage about him arriving at the storm, that was pretty cool. And then their final journey to Transylvania, that was probably my fourth favorite passage. So now it is time for the reading of our favorite passages. So I'm going to let Joy go first. And
once again, I'm just going to read. This is just 2 paragraphs, but this is at the very beginning of the book, and it's talking about Jonathan Harker. He's the lawyer. He's been summoned to Transylvania, and I just thought it was really pretty how he set up the scenery and everything.
Do you know what chapter this is?
This is chapter...
or what page number?
It's page 12. I'm guessing it's chapter...
that's okay. You can just say the page number.
I guess it's chapter 1. I don't know. Okay. Page 12. So soon we were hemmed in with trees, which in places arched right over the roadway till we passed us through a tunnel. And again, great frowning rocks guarded us boldly on either side. Though we were in shelter, we could hear the rising wind, for it moaned and whistled through the rocks, and the branches of the trees crashed together as we swept along. It grew colder and colder still, and fine powdery snow began to fall, so that soon we and all around us were covered with a white blanket. The keen wind still carried the howling of the dogs, though this grew fainter as we went on our way. The baying of the wolves sounded nearer and nearer, as though they were closing round on us from every side. I grew dreadfully afraid, and the horses shared my fear, but the driver was not in the least disturbed. He kept turning his head to left and right, but I could not see anything through the darkness. And then I'm going to go to this page 14 and read one more small paragraph.
Okay.
So this is, they're getting pretty close to the castle here. The time seemed interminable as we swept on our way, now in almost complete darkness, for the rolling clouds obscured the moon. We kept on ascending, with occasional periods of quick descent, but in the main always ascending. Suddenly I became conscious of the fact that the driver was in the act of pulling up the horses in the courtyard of a vast ruined castle, from whose tall black windows came no ray of light, and whose broken battlements showed a jagged line against the moonlit sky. And of course, I did leave a lot out. I don't have time to read it all, but it talks about, the wolves are howling, and there are these blue lights appearing, these kind of vague blue lights keep appearing. I didn't really understand that either, but yeah, like you said, you've got the animals, the behavior of the animals, the behavior of the weather, everything's turning really weird and strange, and it really does help the setting and building up the suspense, and it turns up the fright factor a little bit.
Yeah, but honestly, and I'm not just saying this because this isn't one of my favorite books, but honestly, that's probably one of my favorite passages I've ever read of any book.
Right.
I just thought it was brilliant.
Just that whole him approaching the castle.
The journey of him. And what's interesting is they do talk about in the book, it's kind of a picture of Western civilization versus Eastern civilization, and the how modern the Western civilization was, and all the new, and then you got the Eastern civilization, your Romanians, your Gypsies, and they're kind of like one. There's a fear of the old and the new. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I've read one of my commentators said that.
Yes, just like there's a lot more superstitions around there, too.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to read the passage where Lucy... So there's a period where Lucy and Mina, they're best friends, and they're staying together. And Lucy has a really bad habit of sleepwalking. And one night she sleepwalks, and this is Mina's recounting of that story. This is Mina. Suddenly, I became broad awake and sat up with a horrible sense of fear upon me and of some feeling of emptiness around me. The room was dark, so I could not see Lucy's bed. I stole across and felt for her. The bed was empty. I lit a match and found that she was not in the room. The door was shut, but not locked as I had left it. I feared to wake her mother, who had been more than usually ill lately, so threw on some clothes and got ready to look for her. As I was leaving the room, it struck me that the clothes she wore might have some clue to her dreaming intention. Dressing gown would mean house, dress outside. Thank God, I said to myself, she cannot be far, as she is only in her nightdress. I looked in the sitting room, not there. Then I looked in all the other open rooms with an ever-growing fear chilling my heart. Finally, I came to the hall door and found it open. The people of the house are careful to lock the door every night, so I feared that Lucy must have gone out as she was. There was no time to think of what might happen. A vague fear obscured all details, and I took a big heavy shawl and ran out. The clock was striking 1 as I was in the crescent, and there was not a soul in sight. I ran along the north terrace, but could see no sign of the white figure which I expected. At the edge of the west cliff above the pier, I looked across the harbor to the east cliff in the hope, or fear, I don't know which, of seeing Lucy in her favorite seat. There was a bright full moon with heavy, dark, driving clouds, which threw the whole scene into a fleeting diorama of light and shade as they sailed across. For a moment or two I could see nothing, as the shadow of a cloud obscured St. Mary's Church and all around it. Then, as the cloud passed, I could see the ruins of the abbey coming into view, and as the edge of a narrow band of light, as sharp as a sword cut, moved along, the church and the churchyard became gradually visible. Whatever my expectation was, it was not disappointed, for there, on our favorite seat, the silver light of the moon struck a half-reclining figure, snowing white. The coming of the cloud was too quick for me to see much, for shadows shut down on light almost immediately, but it seemed to me as though something dark stood behind the seat where the white figure shone and bent over it. So,
yeah, that's creepy even by today's standards.
Yeah, so she's literally sleepwalking outside, and that's just the description of her, and she's in a graveyard, and then she can see a dark figure, which is Dracula, obviously, covering over her. Okay, so let's do the book rating. I don't think you'll guess my book rating word. You could. We've actually said it several times, and you actually brought it up a while ago, just unknowingly.
How many Count Chocula's? I don't know.
It is one of the characters' names.
Okay, the cool name, Van
Helsing.
Van Helsing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So how many?
I do like his name.
How many Van Helsings
do you
give this
so
book?
I'm gonna give it. Oh, this is tough. The story's so awesome and so unique and just really keeps your interest, but I'm only going to give it 2.5 Van Helsings.
Okay.
Just because, like I said, take out that middle half and I'd give it at least a 4.
So I gave it 3.5 Van Helsings.
Wow.
And my favorite passages, I gave it 5. so
that's what I'm saying.
If we can dissect the book.
Yes, if we can get rid of the middle of the book and put the first and last, I'd give it at least 4 Van Helsings.
If I could dissect the book, yes, I would give parts of it 5 stars.
Yeah, some of the writing is beautiful.
Yes. Okay, so any final thoughts before we go on to trivia?
Yeah, just watch the movie. Don't read the book.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's. I'm actually.
It's a big time commitment.
Yes.
Or just read the first few chapters and the last few chapters, and you have it down. You know what happens.
Yes. I'm actually glad I read it, so now I know, and because it's kind of one of those books that I've always been like.
I feel like we took one for the team.
Yeah.
We're saving our readers a lot of time and pain and letting them know, hey, read the first few chapters and the last few chapters. You've basically had the story, and we've kept you from much suffering.
Okay, I will. I have one more thing to add.
All right.
Okay, one thing that I learned from reading Dracula. It is possible to read a book that is not a typical book you would read and still enjoy it.
Oh, right.
So,
I agree.
I had little to no interest in the subject matter.
Right.
I still have no interest.
Right.
I still have no interest in vampires. I don't.
Right.
But my point is, even though I knew I wasn't going to enjoy the subject matter, I still enjoyed some of it. So as long as it's really well written, you can still enjoy a book, even if you don't.
Yes, I did enjoy parts of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though I'm the same way, I have no interest in like I said, I read all the Twilight books. But as far as this story, I've never really I've got to go read Dracula.
Right.
But I'm with you. I'm glad I got through it. I'm glad I read it. Now I know the actual story, even though I missed a few bits and pieces here and there.
This is kind of funny. Now, this is going to sound serious, but to other book nerds out there, it's like I bought the book. This is kind of weird, too. We were in Cracker Barrel a month ago, and it just I walked in and they had Halloween stuff out there on a table. They had Dracula and Frankenstein, and so I bought Dracula because I knew we were getting ready to do it.
Well,
so here's my dilemma. I always keep my books that we do for our, but I don't know that I want to keep this book because it's just not. It's not going to be one
not one of your
keep
favorites.
on my shelf. No.
And then that's another thing. It appeared on our overdrive through our school. I saw that Dracula appeared as a new release, and I asked our librarian. I said, "Oh, I saw where you got Dracula." She said, "Well, that was a freebie." She said they just let us have it with our subscription or whatever. So that was cool that it just appered in Cracker Barrel for you. It just appeared in the book feed for me.
I felt like it was kind of meant to be for whatever reason. So, all right, let's see. We're going to find out how much Joy knows about vampire trivia.
Ooh.
All right, so let's just get right in. There's 10. I've got 10 questions for you, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah, but I want a prize. I want those. Do you remember those wax teeth?
Oh, yeah.
That look like, they were pointy.
You know what's funny is, today, it was too late. I thought about this too late, but I thought, it would have been so funny if I would have went and bought some of those fake vampire teeth, and right when we started the podcast, if I had them on, because I always wanted to see you
That'd
laugh.
Be awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know what your reaction would be. All right, number 1. No, or should I do this in Dracula voice?
Yes.
Wait, how does he talk?
I'm trying to think how he talks.
I want to suck your blood.
Come to Dracula.
What American essayist documented? Okay, I don't think I can do it. What American essayist documented a Vermont vampire hunt in an 1859 journal entry? Was it Samuel Clemens, Henry David Thoreau, Edgar Allan Poe, or Ralph Waldo Emerson?
I'm going to have to go with the obvious, which means just pointing out the right answer. Edgar Allan Poe.
No, I just threw his name in there hoping you'd pick it.
Yeah, so you threw out the bait and I took it.
I threw out the bait. That's okay. 200 years after the Salem witch trials, farmers in New England became convinced that their relatives were returning from the graves to feed on the living.
Ooh.
Henry David Thoreau mentions an exhumation. Is that how you say that? Exhumation? Exhumation in his journal dated September 29th, 1859.
Really?
So even as late as 1859, they were digging up bodies because they thought they were vampires.
Oh my goodness. And who would have thought Henry David Thoreau, he's the one that writes all about nature.
Yeah,
and
he's
right?
not Walden.
Yeah, he's the Walden guy.
Person.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, number 2. What is a group of vampires called?
Oh, I think I've heard this before. A coven? No, that's a witch.
No. There's 5 different things that they can be called, and one of them is a coven.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're right. I thought that was...
I was thinking that was just witches, yeah.
Yeah, very good. A group of vampires has variously been called a clutch, a brood, coven, pack, or a clan?
Oh, clan makes sense because Edward or Team Jacob or Edward, they were a clan.
Were they?
Right? Wasn't that family considered a clan?
I don't know.
But the Team Jacob, they were probably a pack.
They were a pack of wolves.
Yeah, I was going to say, they were a pack and Edward was a clan.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's kind of interesting. What animal was used to locate a vampire's grave? Was it a falcon, a horse, a rat, or a dog?
I would think it would be a wolf, but okay, I have no idea. I'm going to say dog.
Okay, no, that's not correct. Okay, one method of finding a vampire's grave involved leading a virgin boy. I would hope all boys were virgins, but anyway, leading a virgin boy through a graveyard on a virgin stallion.
My goodness.
So the horse would supposedly balk at the grave in question, and generally a black horse was required.
Oh.
Okay. All right, number 4, quattro. How many times did Bram Stoker visit Transylvania while researching his Dracula novel? Did he visit 1 time, 3 times, 5 times, or never?
I'm going to say never.
Very good.
Ding, 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 ding. I just read about it.
Although Stoker set his book in Transylvania, he never visited the country.
Aww.
Most of his Victorian readers didn't know the difference because he added details from travel books, including train timetables and hotel names.
All right.
So they thought, who knows. All right, number 5. What is the name of the popular Dracula puppet on Sesame Street?
Oh my gosh. Is it Count Dracula?
It's Count something.
Oh, Count.
1 cookie. 2 cookies. 3 cookies.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I should know this. Jeff does that all the time, especially when Olivia was little. I thought it was Count something.
It's...
Tell me what it starts with.
Count.
Is it just Count?
Count Von... It's
Cookie?
It's really too obvious. It's Count Von Count.
Oh my goodness. I didn't
name
realize that was his name.
I looked it up.
Count Von Count?
That's what it says. That's what I read. Count Von Count.
Cookie.
Okay, number 6. Name 4 things that repel vampires.
Ooh. Garlic. Crucifixes.
Mm-hmm.
Holy water.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no,
this
I'm on
is
the last
spooky.
one.
If you said the last one, you said you got them all right, and you said them in the order I had them on my paper. Garlic, crucifix, holy water. One more thing that repels vampires.
Now, a mirror they just can't see themselves in. A priest?
It's a pretty obvious one if you think about it.
The stake? Oh, the silver bullet? No. I know
that
they
one
kill
doesn't
them.
repel them, it kills them. So something that they can't...
Oh, that repels them.
Repels them.
Oh.
Well, and maybe this last one may be up for interpretation. I wrote it, but you may disagree.
What is it?
The sun.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
So that's so funny because it literally was garlic, crucifix, holy water. You said those in the exact order I had them written, and then I had the sun.
And you
may disagree. I just threw that one in there.
Yeah, and also, don't they have to be invited into your residence in order for their power to work?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
And Dracula.
And wasn't that in the book?
Yes, in Dracula. They mentioned that several times.
Right. He had to be invited.
He had to be invited in.
Right.
Okay. So number 7, which of the following vanity items would a vampire not own? A comb, a mirror, a brush, or toothbrush?
Mirror.
Okay, mirror. Okay.
Wouldn't work.
Right. Exactly. All right. True or false? Dracula may have been inspired by a nightmare.
False?
That's true.
Okay.
Supposedly, I don't know where these people get this information, but supposedly, Dracula supposedly came from a nightmare, or possibly because he had some bad seafood. And apparently, in his...
What, you meant Bram Stoker?
Yes. So Bram Stoker had a notebook full of his notes. And that's where a lot of this trivia came from. And they said that he mentions having some bad seafood, and he had this really bad nightmare, and they think that's what inspired the whole book.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Who knows? All right, number 9. Lucy's death scene was based on a real exhumation. I still don't know how to say that word. It means when you pull a dead body out of the ground.
Yeah.
So Lucy's death
it's just like that's a really simple word, and I can't think how to say it.
Was based on a real... Well, the only way you could say it would be exhumation or exhumation.
But it's said differently. I'll look it up later.
Yeah.
Continua.
Okay, do you think that's true or false? That her
It's
death
based
scene
on
was based on a
actual...
real...
Oh, well, crud. I'm going to say true.
Because what they're talking about is they actually go to her coffin and then they kill her.
Open the...
Yeah. Okay, yes, it's true. Stoker may have borrowed this from an experience of his neighbor who was a poet, and painter. His name was Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Okay. When Rossetti's wife Elizabeth died in 1862, Rossetti put a journal of love poems in her coffin. And they said he wound it romantically into her hair, these love poems in her hair. Then in 1869, which was 7 years later, he changed his mind, and the coffin was raised in the middle of the night so he could retrieve the book.
Ooh.
It says this grisly exhumation may have been on Stoker's mind when he wrote Lucy's finally. And that's disturbing, isn't it?
Especially because they didn't have coffins like we do now to protect the body.
Yeah.
So there's probably just bones left.
Yeah, it was.
And
I
hair.
left out some of the details. It was pretty gory. Okay, number 10. This is the last one. Dracula was almost called Vampires Among Us.
True or false?
True or false?
I don't know. I'm not very good at this trivia tonight. Okay, true.
That's false.
Oh.
I just made that up.
I thought that sounds pretty contemporary.
Believe there are vampires among us. Sorry, that's actually Angels Among Us.
That's
okay. The working title of the novel, this is what he actually started off was The Dead Undead. Okay. Which was later shortened to The Undead. So instead of The Dead Undead, he's like, nah, that's too much. Let's just do The Undead. Okay, so then right before it was published, Stoker changed the title once more to Dracula. In Bram Stoker's notes show he changed the title to Dracula after discovering Dracula means devil in Romanian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so upon release, Dracula got good reviews, but it was very slow to sell. And by the end of his life, Stoker was so poor he had to ask for a compassionate grant from the Royal Literary Fund. So once again, another author who dies broke and doesn't get to see success of his
get to enjoy
work.
his success.
Yeah, and I'm just going to, this is the last thing and then we're going to close. I was just going to mention that, so the thing that really struck me about Dracula, this tale did not become the legend it is today until the film adaptations began popping up during the 20th century. So the movies are what really made Dracula a star, and it says he has appeared in more films than any other horror character, more than 200 and counting.
Wow.
And that number doesn't even include comedies and cartoons.
Right.
So that's just over 200 movies with Dracula. So if someone says, "Did you see that movie Dracula?" there's a good chance we're not talking about the same one.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, well, that's all I had. I'm excited that that this is our 50th episode. It's been a lot of fun. I hope we have many more to come. Mm-hmm. Anything you'd like to say before we close?
It seems very surreal to me that this is our 50th episode. It just seems like just the other day that we started this podcast, and it doesn't seem like we've done 50. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like it. Well, I've had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. I hope we can keep it up, and I hope we can keep attracting new listeners. And I really wish the listeners would chime in and use our every episode we put SpeakPipe on there, and we would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on these books we're talking about, or if you have any interesting trivia to add or anything.
And maybe, and it just occurred to me, maybe you feel self-conscious about speaking and you're afraid we're going to use you, which we would never use your voice without your permission. Mm-hmm. But if you just want to leave a comment, you can always leave a comment on our Facebook page or our web page, and those are both linked on our Buzzsprout page. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad I just happened to look to the left of me, and we're in a bedroom, and I just looked on the bed because I wanted to surprise you. Ooh. I bought you something for your dog.
Oh, awesome.
And I wanted to do this on air. That's the wrong one.
Oh, no.
That's the wrong one. I bought one for me. And there it is.
Oh, my gosh. So it's a t-shirt for a dog, and it says Count Wacula. It's a little dog with a Count Dracula cape on. That is too cute.
And so that's for her little puppy Tucker, and we'll take a picture of Tucker in it, and I'll post it with this episode.
What's that other one?
So this other one I bought for Bentley. It's orange doggy shirt, and it's got a dog on a witch broom flying through the air.
That is cute. We need to get their pictures made together. Those are so cute.
I thought they could wear these for Halloween.
Oh, those are adorable.
Yeah, so we'll get their pictures made and we'll put them
Thank you
on
so
this
much.
episode.
Very cute.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Twin Talk.